Did you hear that? Hear what? Tanks? 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 Tanks! Tanks! Oh yeah, tanks. Night, night. Tanks? Tanks. Tanks? Tanks. Weasel 3!
Welcome to The Breakdown, brought to you by PaintballAccess.com and sponsored by Planet Key, GI, Dye, and Raza. Matty Marshall alongside Todd Martinez and Steve Rabikoff, and here we are. We are now at the third stop on the PSP Tour. The Chicago Open is about to go down. Boys, I'm really excited for this event. Every event always is going to get crazy when you have this Champs and Challengers format, and so many interesting stories are going to play themselves out this weekend. So, Rab, what do you, before we get into the games that we're looking at that should be, you know, those highlighted games, and kind of, to be honest, as we saw last event and the first event, you never know really what the good games are going to be. But, Rab, you know, what are the interesting stories that are going to play out this weekend in your mind?
Well, we're all going to see how angry LA Infamous is for. It's going to be going back down to the Challengers division.
Yes. And
how our cast is going to rebound after going back down. They got back up to champions, got knocked out with the 0-5, which I don't think any of us expected. At least on the chat forums, no one expected that. So, and then 187, man, they put Infamous out. They kept their spot, and now look at that bracket they're in. And the first game is against San Diego Dynasty. So I think there's a lot of games playing out here. And we had a new team join Challengers Division as well.
Yeah, Baltimore Revo has joined the Challengers Division as Texas Storm had to bow out. And we send our best wishes to Texas Storm and Ryan Gray. Some really bad things happened to their field. So anyway, Todd, what are you thinking, man? Crazy stories out there. What to you are going to be the highlights of the weekend?
Well, my team, obviously, first for me, Omaha Vicious.
Man, I was going to say something.
You know,
that's why I let you do that.
I can't wait to see, you know, how we're going to play. I mean, this is a really interesting field layout. For the first time, we've seen the A turned to the side, so there's going to be a lot more heads-up shots right on the break. You're going to be able to see where the teams line up, and, you know, it's a straight heads-up battle. 2 stand-up cans on both sides, so I think the best gun battlers with the fastest, smartest players are going to come out here and have some really exciting paintball on display for us. Like you said, 187, I thought that they finished the MAO event really well, and I think they're going to be exciting to watch. And
yeah, they knocked out Archaeos.
Yes, and Heat is also back from the Challengers division. So
wait, did Archaeos knock out?
No,
it was Infamous.
Infamous.
Yeah, Infamous.
Yeah, Vicious knocked out Archaeos. So, you know, seeing Heat come back from the Challengers division, you know, every time you go down to the Challengers division, it's tough. But every team that we've seen go down has come back a better, stronger team that has learned lessons. So I think it's going to be exciting to see how Heat does back from the Challengers.
Yeah, I got a couple teams that I'm looking at too. But before we get to that, let's talk about that real quick, Todd, because you do have experience with that. You know, Vicious had to go down to the Challengers division, fight their way back. You guys ended up winning that. But what's it like mentally? You know, because a lot of guys are crushed by it. But like you just said, it ends up being a positive in the long run because one, it smacks you in the face and brings a little bit of reality to your program. Like, hey, if we mess up, this could be our fate. So it's in our hands. We need to work harder. What's it like down there?
Well, it's tough because it's such a tight group now in the Champions division. It's really easy to go down there. I mean, we've seen good teams go down. When I first came to Vicious was in MAO last year, and they had lost Dallas, and I came into the Challengers division. We won the tournament, got back into Chicago, and took 4th, which was the best that the team has ever done. And then we only had 1 practice for the next event in Riverside, lost all of our games, went back down for World Cup, ended up winning World Cup in the Challengers division, and it was a really tough battle for us. But, you know, it made the team stronger. stronger. It made them really look at themselves again deep within and work on the finer things, the fundamentals, and really realize what you're there for. So it sucks to go down there because you always want to be playing against the best every event, and it feels like you're missing an event in the Champions Division when you don't get to compete at that level. But it's definitely a learning experience, and it is what you make of it. So you take that time to regroup, work on the things that you need to work on to not have that situation happen again. And it happens to the best of us. We've seen it happen now to Art Chaos, Infamous, and Houston Heat. So,
and those are top level, highly funded teams.
And it's going to happen in this bracket. Like Todd said, there's just so many. It's 10 solid teams there, and
well, 187 is another perfect example. 187, they went down twice as well, but I think that because they had that experience last event, the way that they were to dig deep and fight and knock Infamous down, that helped them be the stronger team that they are now coming into this event.
Yeah, and also it's it's an interesting story. You have the team story, then you have the story of the tournament, and then you also have individually the player stories. And so many guys have stepped up this year. Oliver Lang is playing phenomenal this year for San Diego Dynasty. San Diego Dynasty is playing phenomenal as well. Hopefully, maybe you got Oliver on your fantasy team, and remember, you have until 8 o'clock in the morning Friday in order to get those quick picks in for a chance to win a GI Victus. And then also the drafts too. I had a chance to set up a draft league, and I was like, this is crazy. I'm sitting around actually doing fantasy, like drafting paintball with a group of buddies, and we got our own little side thing going on to see who wins that. But yeah, so and to me, one of the most fascinating things about any PSP event is the way that it breaks down now with the champs and the challengers bracket, is that every day is its own story. Friday is, okay, who came to this event? Who looks good at this event on this layout? And everyone starts learning from each other, and the battle commences, and we see where everyone's sitting and heading into Saturday. And then Saturday's crazy because we find out who's going to move on, who's going to have to play in relegation games, who's not even going to play on Sunday. And then Sunday, obviously, is the most important day when we find out who's going to win all the divisions, who's going to win champs and challengers. And my favorite games to watch, other than the final games, are those relegation games because there's just so much on the line.
Yeah, and those games are really tough to play. It almost has the intensity of a finals match, because you're playing for your life at the next tournament. And, like last event, you're playing to play in Chicago, which is the second biggest tournament of the year next to World Cup. So,
and this is a hard tournament to win. Chicago historically, as we've mentioned on previous breakdowns, but it bears repeating because it's so true. And we've all been in this position when we were during our playing days. And you head into Chicago, and that those Midwest teams, those Northeast teams, they've had time now to get a lot of outdoor practice in, and all the new pickups from each squad is start to coalesce and figure out, okay, who's stepping up for each squad, what our starting five is going to be. Are we going to run starting five? Are we going to go 2 lines? Do we even have enough guys, solid guys, to run 2 lines? All that stuff starts to get figured out here by this event, and that's why Chicago is historically the hardest event to win other than the World Cup.
And there's a lot of talent here from the Midwest. There's a lot of pro players that are from out in this area, so it's a lot of people's hometowns, a lot of people with a lot of drive to win out here.
And it's a
lot of families here screaming and cheering on, so it is the local teams usually do well here.
Yeah, and also it's interesting too because this is also a really hard event to win during the divisionals because that same principle applies to them as well too. And a lot of these guys that are on those divisional teams, I mean, we all knew how it was coming up. It's a struggle to get enough practice in. I mean, even for some pro teams like Aftershock, it's a struggle to get good practice in. But they also have that same thing now too, where they've had a couple months to get some solid practice in. And speaking of Chicago Aftershock, man, the new episode or the first episode of the roster just dropped, and also we're going to be premiering the first episode. Not premiering, it's already out, but if you haven't seen it yet, you are going to be able to watch the first episode of the new season of the roster featuring Chicago Aftershock. So you get to see that behind-the-scenes look. Mikey Bruno, Carl Markowski, Chris Sosine, AJ Lawhead, and how that rough and rugged, crazy blue-collar baller team has been able to, one, stick around because it's one of the most legendary teams ever, but fight through that. And so, yeah, it's going to be premiering during lunchtime. Not premiering, but it's going to be playing during lunchtime. But Shock, I am so excited. Oh, I'm sorry, on Sunday during the lunch break. But Shock, to me, is one of my favorite teams to watch. They're just really exciting to watch play. You never really know what's going to happen. And they have a great story this year particularly, and they're looking better than they ever have.
They got the confidence. Each tournament, they're getting better and better, and now they feel like they belong up here, and they're close. And after that last event, that close game against Impact and MAO, they're coming here. They're at home. They want to win this event. So I'm like you. I'm excited to see what they're going to do here. And if the pressure of playing at home is going to be too much, or can they battle through it, Todd?
Yeah. I think that's going to be one of the tougher teams that we're going to face. I mean, we're in their bracket. So, I mean, the team, they've found their identity. You know, they found something that they all can buy into.
Yeah, for sure.
And, you know, they're all playing with a lot of confidence. So, you know, we play them, I believe, on Saturday afternoon. Nope, we play them on Friday afternoon. So Friday at 4:30. You know, check that game out.
Yeah, and I really also want to see, you know, we haven't heard much from the Ironmen this year. They've kind of been that mid-level boss this year, haven't made a Sunday, haven't had to play in a relegation game, taking those consistent, you know, right in the center of the pack, which is good for them because they're not playing relegation games, but they brought those royalty guys on. So now that they've had some time to work through, I'm interested to see what's going to happen with the Ironmen, you know?
I think this layout for Alex Goldman, I think the snake side, I think he's going to have some fun over here on the snake side.
Yeah, speak of the devil, there he is. He shall appear. Alex Goldman and the rest of the Ironmen kind of scouting it out. They just had a little practice.
It's like you said with them, they're playing in that middle pack, and they're borderline from either playing below or making the top four. So they just got to get that confidence that they belong there as well and get through. So it's a process, man. And like you said, they're playing. These teams are the best in the world, man.
Yeah.
There's no getting around it.
In the same sense, you know, let's talk about X Factor real quick. X Factor in Dallas, I mean, they could have gotten blown out game after game after game. They went down a ton of points and then fought their way back and had tons of comebacks, you know, in that Dallas event.
Tons of comebacks. It's crazy.
And then they come
6-point comebacks
to MAO, and you know, it was between us and them in that very last game to see who plays for relegation. If that last game, actually, if we had beat X Factor, then we'd have played on Sunday. But because we lost, we ended up playing for relegation. X Factor, it was play for relegation or finish in the middle of the pack, top 3. So, I mean, again, it's like X Factor is sitting there in that middle of the pack too, and we have such high expectations for them now after winning last year's World Cup.
Yeah, we do have pretty high expectations for them.
You know,
and rightfully so. You know, they got Colt Roberts on the team, Archie Montemayor, Grayson Goff. I mean, they have some phenomenal talents. I really like the rookie Dimitri Ninos. I mean, that core has been together literally, and I believe that this is the 10-year anniversary of their first big pro win where they splashed on the pro stage, and everyone was like, oh my God, who the hell are these kids from Texas just blasting everybody in wild gunfights? So, you know, can they recreate some of that World Cup magic and the magic they've had keeping that core together as long as they had? I mean, that's so difficult to do. So let's jump in here and talk about some of these games on Friday here. I can't wait to see, you know, obviously we got Boom and Red Storm, 8:15 to start it off, and then Trenton Top Gun and Sacramento Excessive. Also, did I hear right, is the kid from the NCPA, Todd, playing on Trenton now?
Yeah.
Zach Johnson.
Zach Johnson.
So I don't want to pump him up too much yet, but there is this midget kid on Top Gun now. His name's Zach Johnson, and he was doing phenomenal things at the NCPA tournament. So now he's gonna have to step up and play with the big boys.
He's about 5'4", 5'5", maybe.
Yeah.
You know, but we were watching him play out there at the college championships, just running and gunning people down,
Just
running through the middle, just
dominating
all over the place. You know, exciting kid to watch. So if he gets some spins out there Friday at 9 a.m. versus Excessive, you know, he could be an exciting player to watch.
Yeah, for sure. And then I'm looking forward to seeing this first Champions League game, Tampa Bay Damage taking on Houston Heat. What is Houston Heat going to look like now? They've been in Texas playing in the Heat, training for this specific event, and I can't wait to see what they have against Damage, always a top team. And then San Diego Dynasty after that against Upton 187 crew. We had mentioned that earlier. That should be an interesting one. And then San Antonio X Factor and Houston Heat after that. It's another one of those games. I think that's going to be a super entertaining game. What are you looking at, Todd, as we kind of get through the schedule here?
Yeah, I like both of those games. Definitely the Damage Heat one because that's a former finals matchup as well. And then X Factor Heat's a great one. But, you know, continuing on into the afternoon, Damage and 187 crew. You know, 187 crew's got a tough first day, you know, playing Dynasty and then taking on Damage right after that.
That's a tough one.
So,
but that's how it is now. It's going to be like that from here on out.
And that 12:45 Dynasty against X Factor. And here's the crazy thing, guys, after Friday. Someone's possibly going to be 0-2, and you're talking about a big name, potentially, that could be 0-2 on Friday, looking at, we better get going on Saturday. So that's, it's happening all year, and that's what's going to happen here.
Yeah, because that happened at the last event. We had big-name teams go 0-2 at the last one, and it was kind of a shocker, to be honest.
And what starts happening when you're 0-2, you got to go out on that Saturday, that third game. You lose that third game, now you're 0-3, and you're like, oh, man, we're playing relegation now. There's just no way around it. So there's a lot of pressure on there when you're 0-2 on Friday, man.
Yeah.
And a lot of those teams that happened this year, they battle through. So.
And then we got Moscow Red Legion coming back into the Champions Division. and their first game is going to be against Aftershock, their first game here at the Chicago Open in Chicago.
Well, and I think that's going to be a crazy one too. The thing with Moscow Red Legion, a lot of people, they hear the name, and if you've been around paintball for a while, Moscow Red Legion finally got eclipsed. No pun intended. As Dynasty took down their title as the most successful PSP team ever with that crazy year, awesome year that Dynasty had last year with the 2 wins, and then with the win they had earlier on this year at the last event, they were able to finally eclipse the record that had been set by Moscow Red Legion. But the thing with Moscow Red Legion, those guys are completely rebuilding their team. They basically went and got a bunch of mercenaries from France. They have the best players from France, the Tauntauns. I love watching those guys play. I really do. I know they had some controversy last year, but I really do like them. I like the Tauntauns are aggressive. They play that kind of like bully style of gunfighting. And then there's a lot of these young Russian kids now, most of them are right around the age of 18. And that's one of the questions I think with Moscow Red Legion is that they're really good at training players, obviously with the the stars that are now in Art Chaos. So who's going to be the next Russian phenom? We saw I can't remember some of their names because they're almost unpronounceable for us. But we saw a couple of their kids finally start stepping up. Todd, remember we were calling a game together at the last event, and we were like, oh, this kid keeps getting in the snake. Remember that kid's name?
It was something with the Simsensky.
Something like that. Shmashikov. Something like that. Yeah, but
he's good though.
Was it Rabakov?
No.
Black. Was it the Black Hawk? What is it?
Rabahawks.
The Rabahawks.
Yes.
The Rabahawks.
We'll have to bring that jersey up and let everybody see that thing. That thing's original.
Oh, so good. Well, yeah, and so also just kind of dipping real quick into the divisionals, DC Devastation has had quite a great run up through the divisionals. You guys won the last event. Do you think DC Devastation can come in here and repeat? I think and will you eventually try? Are you trying to get that team into the Challengers League?
Right now they're sitting in second. Obviously, the first top 2 teams make it to Challengers. It's consistency. You have to be consistent in each division to work your way up. Chicago, it's like Todd said, it's a hard tournament for teams to win, and a lot of Midwest teams really practice hard for this event. I expect them to do well. I want them to do well, but this is a tough tournament. You got a lot of good teams in Division 1. TMG Outlaws, Avalanche is down there, AC Dallas, DC Devastation. There's so many teams that are in there, so we'll wait and see. I hope that they do well, but it's tough, man. It's really tough. And like you said, not just the pro bracket and all the divisions. And they've worked their way through the divisions, and hopefully they'll keep it going. And you'll see that Rabahawk jersey.
Yeah. His kids made a jersey. It's Blackhawks, but it's not because it's Rab's face with his bald head. And it's just great. You got to check it out. But anyway, so heading on to some more of these afternoon games on Friday. I'm looking forward to that Ironman Moscow Red Legion game, and then Shock and Vicious.
Oh, you forgot the 3 o'clock game, the start of Todd's day. Omaha Vicious, Impact.
Yeah, an Impact, man. But that's a name we have not mentioned. Impact was won 2 events in Europe this year. Talk about rebuilding. They've rebuilt, and they did it a little bit of unconventional way as they went out and got some younger guys to bring on instead of going out for those big name pros like some of the other teams did. And it's paid off for them pretty well. It took second at the last event. They look really good. We'll see how they do on this field layout. They obviously are definitely one of the favorites here. You can't, have taken a second and, have the stars like the Justin Cornell, Justin Rabakov, your son, Dave Baines. The Yakmeks are playing amazing. Wimet's, a great attacker. Impact's definitely looking really strong this year. And they closed the day out against the Ironman. And then Saturday, trying to pick a best game here is too difficult, but I really want to see that, to start it out up to 187 in Houston Heat. These are all Central Times, 8:15 Saturday morning, and then Tampa Bay Damage X Factor. I really can't wait to see that game. And the Dynasty Houston Heat. For some reason, I'm just really excited to see Heat play because
we're waiting to see what they're going to do.
Waiting to see what they're going to do. We didn't really get to see them much last event, except that they. The little bit of time we got to see him on Sunday. But the team's chock full of stars.
Yeah.
I mean, Heat's legit. It's just did they put it together yet?
A lot is expected of them as well. So
and they've been practicing a lot.
They have been practicing a lot. The pressure. We'll see how they're going to handle it here. And they've got the games here. They got to go do it out there, though. So that'll be a great game to see.
Dynasty Damage is always a good game.
That's always a good
Saturday,
game.
11:15.
It wasn't a very good game in the semifinals of MAO, but
yeah, but I think it's going to be a different story on this layout. This layout's apparently the Wild Wild West from all the info I've been getting coming back from practices, doing a little behind the scenes recon. But Man, expect the unexpected out on this field, man. I think it's going to get crazy. The field could shift, and the snake's really strong. Off the break, it's a crapshoot as far as how many, depending on what guns you want to put where, it's going to be insane. So yeah, lots of good games Saturday morning, and then Saturday afternoon. Really want to see Vicious play Moscow Red Legion. Looking forward really to that Aftershock Ironman game and the last game to close it out, because that's the thing about Saturday, like we talked about earlier. Saturday is everything as the games, those afternoon games. Everyone's around, everybody's watching, because that's deciding everybody's fate. And so the last couple games to decide everyone's fate is Impact Moscow Red Legion 3:45, 4:30, Ironman versus Vicious, and then the last game to close out the prelims is Impact and Chicago Aftershock. Yeah, it's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, there's a
tough schedule
look at
right
the
there.
Schedule, man. It's gonna be game after. It's gonna be
It's
just
gonna
like
be
a
worth
man.
every penny of the webcast.
Yes, and remember, man, every dime that you guys spend on the webcast goes directly into production budget to keep this thing around, keep it awesome, and keep pushing it forward. And really excited.
Got to pay for those guys sitting up at those towers.
Yeah, yeah, man. We got statistics. We got fantasy paintball. We got the best teams in the same league for the first time in forever. Paintball's at its highest level has really kind of never been this strong, and we got to keep this momentum going. So again, if every single person grabs one other person and buys this webcast, man, we're going to be able to do some really cool stuff, and keep this thing around, most importantly. So, man, thank you guys for tuning into the breakdown. Again, spread the word, spread the paintball gospel. That's always my message. That's why PBA exists, is to bring you all these interesting stories and to show the best in and just try to create the greatest stage we can for what I think is one of the coolest sports ever to grace the earth, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, on behalf of Todd Martinez and Steve Rabakoff, thank you guys for tuning in, man. It's going to be a great event. You don't want to miss it.
They say don't be perfect, be clutch. Being clutch is one of my biggest assets. You can rely on me to be clutch, and I rely on the Vanquish. My name is Damian Ryan. I play for Team Infamous, and the Vanquish takes my game to another level.
Oh, get out, sucker!